All righty. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the meeting tonight. Business meeting is now in session. For those who are able, please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. Okay, let's have a roll call.
Director Asner. Director Moeller.
Here.
Director Sartorius.
Here.
Director Suda.
Here.
Director Staton.
Here.
Vice President Cuneo.
Here.
President Patra. You have a quorum.
All righty. Public speakers. Welcome to the monthly meeting of the Board of Education. Up to 30 minutes of this meeting are set aside for public comments. We have 5 individuals who had asked to speak today. And then we have also some comments. So we can go as long, the way the policy is on this, we can go up to 30 minutes. So with that, each speaker will have 3 minutes to address any item that's a legitimate part of the board's business. We're going to see as many different people as possible to speak. Time and limits we're going to be strictly observed, especially today. We have, I believe it is 5 speakers, and we also have like 12 different comments that we may have to that we'd like to put in. Speakers will be invited up to the microphone in the same order in which their names appear. This sign-in sheet and any written material submitted to the board will become part of the official public record of the meeting. So in other words, if we don't get all the comments read that people had emailed in, we at the board will be able to see each of those, and it will be part of our public record. The first one on the public speaker list is Erica Brown. Brown here. Ms. Brown, the microphone is yours.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to speak this evening. And I would like to thank you for making the decision to table the vote from last month regarding the discontinuation of GLP-1 medication for weight loss. Second, I'm going to stand here tonight and share my personal journey and urge you as the board to continue coverage of GLP-1 medications for the employees of Special School District. For as long as I can remember, I'm talking as young as elementary school, I have struggled with anxiety, depression, and obesity. I remember the taboo conversations with parents, teachers, and doctors about going to therapy and starting an antidepressant. And although those decisions were made 35 years ago, they were expensive for my parents' employers to cover. I firmly believe it was their best decision at the time. I became a happier, healthier daughter, student, and human. Much has changed in the last 35 plus years in my personal life and in the world since then, but a few things have remained the same. Although my anxiety and my depression is well treated and managed, my obesity is not. If you had access to the last 10-ish years of my medical records, you would know that I have spent countless hours and appointments with primary care physicians, dietitians, nutritionists, chiropractors, and in physical therapy. I have tried multiple diet nutrition plans, the 21-day fix, Atkins, South Beach, Weight Watchers, low cal, low fat, no carb, and met all with little success. I have utilized the tools that SSD has provided. Wellbeats, fitness classes, the monthly health and wellness challenges, the old One Chip Savor the Taste program of years ago, that's name I don't recall, and most recently, the Amada app. I work out with a personal trainer once a week. I attend adult fitness dance classes, and I go to the gym and do my own personal workouts an additional 2 or 3 times a week. Even with all of those tools in place, I was still morbidly obese. I was diagnosed with 2 other comorbidities, high blood pressure and sleep apnea. At the end of the 22-23 school year, I had a hysterectomy hoping that that would solve the issue. Over the summer, I could still not lose that weight. Weighing 232 pounds at 5'1", my BMI was a 44. I started discussion with my doctor about weight loss medication. I tried oral medications. Vetramine almost sent me over the edge. I tried the injectable Saxenda. I continued to stay within the 225, 230-pound range. In November of 2023, when the FDA approved GLP-1s for weight loss, I was ecstatic. My doctor prescribed a GLP-1 for me, and for the first time, I can say my hard work, my calorie counting, my nutritional planning, they're all making a physical difference. 1 year ago tomorrow, I was at my highest weight. My weight loss has been slow, steady, and healthy. Today, I weigh 188 pounds, have a BMI of 35, and have moved out of the morbidly obese category. I still have a long way to go, but my journey to health has moved forward. Since being on a GLP-1, the non-weight related changes are immeasurable too. I have significantly decreased the amount of alcohol I drink in social and non-social situations. I have more energy. I am happier. I am more productive in my job. I have less anxiety, my nails are growing, and my sleep has improved dramatically. To hear that the board considered halting the coverage of GLP-1 medications for weight loss was devastating. After all, SSD claims to care about each and every employee and states that employee health and wellness is important. My journey to my health is just one. There are at least 400 more employees on their own health journey. Recent studies show that these medications
I'm
not
sorry,
only-
you do have to, you're
I'm
far
sorry.
past 3 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Could you wrap like in 10 seconds?
Yes.
Okay.
I understand that the costs are primary concerns. However, considering the long-term savings these medications could provide, we would have a healthier population. I would ask that the board reconsider the discontinuation of GLP-1 medications for weight loss, and please look at and consider higher copays for medications, how the medication is dispensed, and how our contract with Express Scripts requires patients to increase dosing, and that there is not current research available about titrating down or abruptly discontinuing GLP-1s. I urge you to continue to consider GLP-1 medications and advocate for their continued coverage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And I don't want to seem rude or cruel. Unfortunately, we can only do 3 minutes at a time. No, that's fine. But thank you for your statements. Katharina Roeder, please.
Good evening,
Good evening.
esteemed board members. My name is Katharina Rader, and I'm a dedicated educator and member of our school community to express my deep concern regarding the potential discontinuation of coverage for Wegovy or GLP-1s or semaglutides under our health benefits. Having struggled with weight management for over 15 years, I've tried numerous weight loss programs, including Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Noom, Slim Fast, HCG diet, fasting diets, and others. Unfortunately, while I experienced temporary success with many of these programs, I quickly regained the weight, which has had a lasting impact on my overall health. In May of 2024, I began taking Wegovy, which is a GLP-1 medication that has since transformed my life in ways that no other approach could. For the first time in my adult life, I've not only lost 50 pounds, but I've successfully maintained my progress. This medication has not only helped me achieve and maintain a healthier weight, but has also contributed to significant improvements in my overall health. Prior to starting Wegovy, I was borderline pre-diabetic. Thanks to this medication, I am no longer in this category. Additionally, I've been able to reduce my blood pressure medication, and if my health continues to improve, my doctors have said that they may eliminate it altogether. Scientific studies have shown that GLP-1 receptor agonists like Wegovy can help with long-term weight management, reduce cardiovascular risks, and improve metabolic health. These medications are particularly beneficial for individuals who are pre-diabetic, as they can help prevent the progression to type 2 diabetes while also decreasing the risk associated with heart disease and other obesity-related conditions. By providing comprehensive coverage for Wegovy or GLP-1s, you all have given educators like me the opportunity to improve our health outcomes, which directly contributes to better professional and personal lives. Discontinuing coverage for this medication would not only affect me, but also impact the many others in our school district who rely on it to manage their health effectively. For those who have struggled with weight and its associated health complication, GLP-1s offers hope for a healthier future. Maintaining access to this medication is crucial in helping educators lead healthier lives, allowing us to focus more on our work with students and less on the health challenges that weigh us down for so long. I respectfully urge the board to continue coverage of Wegovy or GLP-1s as part of a health benefit plan. The long-term health benefits of this medication are undeniable, and impact on my life has been profound. By allowing members of our community to maintain access to Wegovy, the board would be supporting the health and well-being of educators across the district. Thank you for your time and consideration of this matter. I trust that you will make a decision that reflects the best interests of all of us educators and our health.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Corey Miller.
Dear members of the SSD board, I am writing to urge, I sent this as an email. I am writing to urge you to reconsider the proposed decision to remove insurance coverage for the GLP-1 medications. As a staff member, this medication has profoundly impacted my life, quality of life, and overall ability to contribute both at work and at home. This is not a cosmetic or vanity drug for me. It has been a life-altering treatment that has helped me achieve health goals that were previously seemed unattainable. Since starting GLP-1 medication, I am no longer classified as medically obese, and my most recent blood test confirmed that I am no longer pre-diabetic. In August, my PCP shared that my A1C blood pressure levels are all now optimal and that every test result fell within a healthy range. This transformation has enabled me to engage more fully and energetically in all aspects of my life, from my professional responsibilities as an SSD social worker and to spending active time with my family. I have 3 young children. And it's no exaggeration that this medication has changed my life for the better in every way. For decades, I've struggled with weight loss through countless diets, programs, and lifestyle changes, everything from calorie counting to fasting. Due to my insulin resistance, these efforts have been met with limited success until I began using GLP-1 medication. This medication has also quieted the persistent food noise that would consume my thoughts, allowing me to focus on a balanced diet and regular exercise. The potential loss of this access to this medication threatens to undo my progress, as studies have shown that discontinuing GLP-1 often leads to a reversal of those health improvements within a year. Paying out of pocket is not feasible for most of us. Instead of removing this critical coverage, I respectfully ask that you reconsider other solutions such as increased copays or adjusting plan options to better manage the costs without eliminating our access. This medication is more than a prescription. It's a powerful tool that has given me and many others a second chance at a healthy life. Please consider the impact of the decision on our staff and their families, and recognize that accessible treatment options allow us to bring our best selves to work every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Eby.
Good evening, Vice President Cuneo, Dr. Macklin, members of the board. I'm Tim Eby. I'm the Executive Director of the Special Education Foundation, whose mission is to assist and support students served by SSD and the educators and families part of the SSD community. I'm here just to share with you a couple of updates of what's happening at SEF, as I try to do at every board meeting. And the first is waking up this morning to go out for a walk, and it was chilly. It was cold. And it got me thinking, what would happen if I didn't have a coat to wear? And that's one of the reasons that each fall we do a coat drive, working with the social workers and the Family and Community Engagement Office through our Critical Needs Program. We do a coat drive to raise money to provide coats for kids served by SSD. And it's, I think, particularly important that these are not used coats, they're brand new coats that we raise money for. We hand it off to the social workers at SSD who buy the coats for the kids. And they do that because so often children with special needs have sensory issues, or if they are in a wheelchair or need a specialized coat to have them fit, we raise the money so we can do that. I brought along a little propaganda to share with you about that, and Dr. Joe, That off to you to pass around, and appreciate your support and spreading the word about this great program. Our goal is to raise about $6,000, which will buy a lot of coats, hats, and gloves for kids. Second thing I just wanted to mention to you and alert you to is that we'd love to have you help us spread the word as well to educators in the SSD community about our Classroom Innovation Grant Program. Last year, we awarded grants for this school year totaling more than $65,000 for educators throughout the special school district. More than 90 grants were awarded to educators, both in the 5 SSD schools, as well as Bridges and the JDC, as well as the partner districts. And that grant process is open through December. And we hope that we'd like to get more educators who have never applying for these grants. And just to give you a little bit of information about that program, brought along a little bit more propaganda. So we are very happy to support all the things that you do, and SEF is there to pitch in and do what we can to help. So thank you.
Thank you. Tim, Mr. Avey, before you leave, I have a question for you. If I do this,
Yes,
can I put it on Visa this time?
it will work.
All right.
I promise.
Before the end of the night, I'll do
Absolutely.
this. Thank you. And I hope everybody,
done.
and I hope everyone here thinks about this. This is a good deal. Next, we have Lindsay Weatherby, please.
Hello, I am here not to talk about GLPs, which is a super important topic I know for a lot of people across the district. But I kind of want to talk about some of the things that were brought up in the last meeting about staffing. So when we think about staffing in the entire district, I have friends who work across the district, and what is happening in the northern schools is a significant issue that needs to be addressed. My concerns are working in the southern region. What does that mean for the things that are going to then happen for our districts, right? For my children who go there, for my students. So thinking about all of that and just working with people and the things that they have said, their biggest concerns are workload. So we had a significant amount of teachers that were new to the district that I work in this year. Of those people, I've had people come to me and tell me that they will not be returning next year, that the workload is ridiculous, that they have come in from other districts and they thought that it was going to be something different and that at the end of the day, it's not worth it. They were much happier in a district outside of SSD. So that already is a significant concern, that the workload is what it is currently. And then when we start thinking about, I know Lindbergh and Clayton were some of the outliers, but when we think about those districts, are we taking into account the fact that we have a significant amount of students who are receiving Wilson services? With Wilson, in order to provide that with fidelity, it is a caseload of 6 people in the class. And the reason that we have so many students on Wilson is a direct correlation to the amount of due processes that have been brought to us. So what is going to happen if we remove these teachers and then we don't follow these programs with fidelity? We just tell parents, sorry, I know this was the solution and this is what we agreed to, but we can't do that anymore. What's going to happen at that point? How are we going to service those students? How are we going to address those concerns? Because as a teacher who's had to collect significant data for due processes, I can tell you that myself and my coworkers, we live in fear of due processes in my district. And so that is a significant concern for me and a lot of the people that I currently work with. I try to be a solution-oriented person and, not try to complain and bring solutions. I honestly don't have solutions for you. I think there is a pool, and what is in the pool is what is in the pool. And so it is a bigger problem than I have an answer for, but I think there are so many other things that we need to consider before we make these decisions, because it's going to affect a lot.
Thank you. Now, if you have more, what I can tell you, we will get everything written to us. And so we will in turn be able to see everything that you've said, if there's additional.
Okay,
All righty?
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I'd like to thank the five individuals that spoke, and I'd like to turn this over now to Tom. He has the individuals that had written us. And so, Tom, it's yours.
Yes, I have 13 and 13 minutes, so we'll see if we can do both. The first is from Aaron Kleiman. I would like the board to please strongly consider not taking away the coverage for the GLP-1 medications. This medication has been life-saving to myself and so many others. I have a medical diagnosis of PCOS, and this medication has been the medical intervention miracle my body needed to help me work towards becoming and managing the healthiest version of myself that I can be. I have heard SSD say that they want teachers to take time for self-care, and taking this medication coverage away takes that opportunity away from so many of us. I started my weight loss journey with my chiropractor, who is also a health coach, and lost weight on my own first, but my body was at a stall and what I was doing was no longer working. Sometimes we need medical interventions to help make things work correctly. With PCOS, my body wants to store sugar and not process it correctly. Having PCOS also creates insulin resistance, which causes so many additional issues. My body does not function as others do, and the medicine is needed to help it function correctly. While I'm on this journey, because my body is functioning better, I am able to lose weight. With the weight loss, I am healthier and out of the pre-diabetic category I was in prior to this. If I was not able to access this medication, other predicted future medications needed could be more costly in the long run. My health could possibly also decline and more medical assistance could be needed, which in the long run ends up possibly costing the district more money. If we look at the whole picture and the long-term benefits, the staff are becoming healthier and we will need less healthcare coverages in the future. Again, please consider the overall opportunity you are taking away as non-medical professionals making this decision for the staff to take time to do something to help them care for themselves. The message that is coming across very loud and clear is that money is more important than health, safety, and welfare of the staff. Our opportunities for take time for self-care would be taken away from us. In my opinion, this decision should be left solely to the medical doctors that prescribe the medications, not the people who are solely looking at saving money for the district. Please consider the well-being of the staff in the long run and the dire need for the personal health journey to be accessible. A healthy staff member is better support for each and every student we serve. Thank you for taking the time to truly consider the health, well-being of the staff who are trying to take the best care of themselves possible. The next is from Keisha Vaughn. My name is Keisha Vaughn, and I've been an employee of SSD for the last 22-ish years. I would like the board to continue covering GPL1s. While I'm not currently on that particular medication, I would like to have that opinion without having to pay out of pocket and possibly lose my savings just to get medication to make me feel better both mentally and physically. If SSD is serious about being concerned about our health and wellness, then please continue to cover GLP-1s so that the people who need it can get it. If we are healthy, both mentally and physically, our work productivity will increase and our students will continue to prosper. Thank you. Third is anonymous. Good evening. I was reviewing the board documents from 10/22, and I would request that this be read at the meeting. I have been on this weight loss medication since 8/19/24, and it has significantly changed my life. I have struggled with weight loss for most of my life with my polycystic ovarian syndrome. For the past 3 years, that's PCOS for acronyms. I'm learning as I read. I have been regularly going to the gym and eating a balanced diet, but have had very little success with weight loss. Since starting the medication, I am down 24 pounds and I'm at the lowest weight I've ever been since I was 17. This weight loss has allowed me to feel more confident about myself and has given me more energy. I have struggled with depression and anxiety for the past 15 years, and I feel like this medication is additionally helping me with that. There's research that preclinical studies have indicated that GLP-1 may have neuroprotective properties, which could be a benefit in managing symptoms of depression and anxiety. Another study stated that GLP-1 is also implicated in psychological responses to stress and suggests that it may play a role in modulating stress-induced behavior, impacting overall mental well-being. I have felt less stress at work and at home with this medication. I am at an age where my husband and I want to start a family within the next few years. PCOS can hinder a woman's ability to get pregnant, and so can weight. The weight loss is important to me because it could help increase my chances of getting pregnant. There's been some research investigating the role of GLP-1 agonists in the management of PCOS, as well, that include metabolic benefits, hormonal imbalances, and reduction in cardiovascular risk. In the same board document, it did state other medications available for weight loss, but these are not the same. The other resources like PAS that are available to us are not enough. I have tried some of those other medications and they do not work, or they have affected my medications that help me control my depression and anxiety. So much so that I've had to stop them. GLP-1 is so different from those medications. The clinical trials for GLP-1 medications demonstrated that these patients can achieve greater reductions in body weight than those who receive standard treatments. As you can see, for me, the use of GLP-1 medications is not just cosmetic to lose weight. It is truly affecting my body as a whole and helping me be in a better physical and mental state for my future. I know many other people who have also used GLP-1 medications and have had only positive experience with these medications. Cutting these medications out could very negatively impact the mental and physical health of those taking it. The next is from Lauren Hessler. I am writing to you today with a sincere and unique request to reconsider the decision to potentially remove GLP-1 medications for weight loss from our healthcare insurance coverage. I am a teacher within the district and have been directly impacted by the inclusion of these medications in our benefits. Without them, I fear for my health and my future. For years, I have struggled with obesity, a condition that has not only affected my quality of life, but has also led to several chronic health issues. I have battled high blood pressure, and my diagnosis of PCOS has made managing my weight even more difficult. Despite trying multiple diet plans, exercise routines, and medications, nothing seemed to work until I was prescribed GLP-1 medication. These medications have given me a sense of control over my body and health that I have not experienced before. The weight loss has not only improved my physical health, but has allowed me to stop relying on high blood pressure medications, which I have been on for years. My PCOS symptoms have become more manageable, and I now have the energy and confidence to do my job better than I ever could before. Without access to these medications, I fear I will once again face a rapid decline in my health, which could lead to greater medical costs in the long run, both for me personally and for the district as a whole. My case is not unique. I know there are others within the district who rely on this medication to manage their health and maintain their ability to work. I ask that you consider the positive impact these medications have had on my health and my ability to serve the students and staff of our district. By removing this coverage, you would be taking away a central lifeline for people like me who are doing everything they can to manage a chronic condition and live a healthier life. Please don't let this vital tool be taken away. I would be deeply grateful if you would reconsider this decision. I am available to discuss my situation further or to provide any additional information that may be helpful in understanding the life-changing effects of GLP-1 medications. Thank you for taking the time to read my letter and for your consideration of this important issue. This one is from Kimberly Rappold. My name is Kimberly Rappold, and I have been with the district since 2002. For the majority of my adult life, I have struggled with my health and weight gain. I have done everything in my power to combat the constant additional weight gains and weight and degradation of my health. I joined classes, gyms, bought gimmicky weight loss pills, purchased Medifast, ate like a rabbit, became vegetarian, went vegan, went keto, did intermittent fasting, all with the same result. Lose some weight, gain it back, plus more when I plateaued. Due to my weight gain, my once perfect blood pressure skyrocketed, regularly looking like I was going to stroke out. My bad cholesterol also took a turn for the worse. My mental health was suffering. I was constantly tired and constantly sick, requiring several visits to the doctor every other month for steroids, antibiotics, breathing treatments, etc. My likelihood of having heart issues was looking inevitable despite my many and continual efforts. My mother, a retired SSD teacher, has high blood pressure, high cholesterol, is a cancer survivor, and has atrial fibrillation. My mother also had both hips replaced, 2 procedures that cost SSD's insurer a large chunk of money. My father has high cholesterol as well. Since I started Wegovy, I've lost 70 pounds. My hips do not hurt, my cholesterol is normal, and my blood pressure has returned to normal. I have not been sick as often as I have all the energy in the world to do my job better than ever before. I have better mental health, and I am so happy with my body and self, even on the hardest of days. While I understand that GLP-1s are expensive, the cost of all the other medical conditions that it cures eliminates is worth it. Considering the current studies that indicate special education teachers experience extremely high levels of stress and stress-related conditions, your employees deserve the chance to be happy as well as physically and mentally fit. Please do not take this away from us. This is from Leslie Mueller. Thank you for hearing my comments last night. I am a special education teacher at Parkway. I'm sorry, not last night, my comments tonight. I am a special education teacher at Parkway North High School. Last year, our partner district began a new program where all staff members had 2 45-minute blocks removed from their weekly planned time to perform duties ranging from hallway duties to testing room supervision and even push in RTI services. SDI staff were told we must follow this policy every week. Part of our responsibilities could entail pushing into classrooms and provide instructional support to students beyond what is on their service plan. According to Article 12.2.2, our joint resolution, it states employees' preparation time shall be used for the performance of professional duties exclusive of direct pupil instruction or evaluation. It also states teacher-directed and student supervision, C 15.4. In 12.2.4, it states supervisors should ensure that duties should not interfere with special education requirements. These duties have interfered with my special education requirements, particularly holding meetings. These duties impact my ability to use my time, my plan time, to prepare for 3 different algebra sections with 2 different teachers and 2 sections of a sophomore English class and perform case management responsibilities. The workload committee has stated they are looking for items to remove from our plates. This duty from the partner district adds to my plate and does not take things off my plate. It also limits the time I can hold meetings during the day, forcing me to have before or after school meetings. This also conflicts with Article 12.3.5. When Parkway began discussing implementing this policy, there were focus groups of 7 to 8 people from every Parkway building in the district. However, only one SSD building staff member was asked to participate. Our special education director attended some of these meetings, but our ability to advocate for the needs of our students, as well as the need to have this protected time to do our jobs, was minimalized. We were told to go along with whatever was decided. Even our partner district teachers advocated Parkway Central Office Administration as to why there was not more representation for SSD staff to be part of this discussion. Despite other SSD staff members advocating to be included in these conversations, those requests were denied. I don't see how this was equitable or something that is done in the spirit of true partnership. As we are now in year 2 of this program, there have been no conversations with teacher level staff, either by Parkway or SSD administrators, on how this loss of time has impacted their ability to do their work. Even MSIP 6 states that teachers are to have adequate plan time, but our own administration has never asked us if what time is given to us is adequate or not. The explanation that we have received is that the 6 responsibility is not technically part of our plan, so we're not losing any plan time since we have the 250-minute minimum. I believe we're at about the 3-minute mark there. There's a little bit more, and I'll make sure the board reads that. I think we have time for one more minute and a half left. This is from Kelly Hornberger. I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to take a moment to update you on my health journey since I began using Zepbound, tirzepatide. Not going to get that right. Thank you. This medication has significantly changed my life. After trying numerous programs such as Weight Watchers, Noom, and various trendy diets without success, I have finally found an effective solution. Combining this medication with my commitment to exercising at the gym 5 to 6 days a week, I've experienced remarkably positive results. I am pleased to report that my A1C levels have decreased. I am no longer classified as pre-diabetic. Additionally, my mental health has greatly improved. I feel more energetic and motivated after losing 65 pounds, and I have 20 more pounds left to lose. Having been a special educator with SSD since 1999, I have never needed to reach out to our generally supportive Board of Education until now. While I am not one to complain and truly love my job, despite the daily challenges of educating today's students, successfully losing this weight has made a tremendous difference in my mood and my ability to manage the challenging behaviors I encounter every day. I want to express my gratitude for your support as a Board of Education member during this journey. It is vital to understand that removing these medications from our insurance plans would be devastating for those of us who have struggled with these issues for our entire lives. We have been given a chance for healthier lives, which has allowed us to decrease our reliance on other medications due to weight loss. Taking this option away would be similar to denying insulin to a diabetic, and I cannot imagine the negative impact it would have on staff morale, which is already under strain due to numerous demands of our job.
Thank you. Those are, we have many more. Those will be included in the minutes for tonight. And they will be given to the board. So if your comment was not read, it will be read in when it's being sent to us. If it was read, it will still be sent to us and we'll have a chance to read it again. And I want to thank everybody for their comments and their input. With that, would someone like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now we proceed to the superintendent's report. Dr. Macklin, it's yours.
Great, thank you. Tonight, Board of Education, we will have 5 presentations. We will start the evening tonight. We will hear from our Chief Financial Officer and Andrew Zeibel, the principal of the audit firm of Clifton, Larson, and Allen. And so if they could come forward first for our first presentation tonight. We will also hear tonight from Dr. Diggs, Dr. Chambers, Jeremy Lowe, who is here regarding an update on the equity presentation. And then we will hear from Dr. Bolton, and I see Dr. Trauber, who was there also, who will be here providing some updates regarding CSIP strategic plan and then monitoring reports. Cindy, take it away.
Good evening, Vice President Cuneo, Board Directors, Superintendent Macklin, community members that are present with us, as well as those that are online. I'm Cindy Ryleman, Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer, and it's my pleasure to introduce Andrew Zebel from Clifton Larson Allen. He's with our audit firm. He'll be presenting our fiscal year 2024 audit report. I do want to take an opportunity to thank my team. There are several in our department that really worked hard, dedicated, and to get the job done in order to work with the auditors so that we could present the audit to you tonight. So I just want to take an opportunity to thank them. Andrew?
Thank you. As Cindy and Mr. Macklin mentioned, my name is Andrew Zabel, so I'm responsible for our audit services that are provided to CLA. Before I dig into that, I do want to thank the management team. And I also want to reassure you guys that having Cindy at the helm from a CFO perspective is really going to support and help drive the district forward. SSD is an important organization. It's a very large school district. It provides a lot of services that are necessary. It's important to have a CFO that really knows what she's doing. And you guys are very lucky to have Cindy at the helm. So I'm going to I'll keep the presentation fairly quick. I did meet with the finance committee. We did meet for about an hour. We did talk through some efficiency and some observations that were included within the audit. And I think Mrs. Sood over there is well versed in financial accounting by now. So, but I'm going to go through the materials. Go one more slide, if you don't mind, Tom. This slide outlines our audit approach. So it talks through kind of how we assess risk. The risk meaning significant estimates to the statements and the risk from material misstatements within SSD's financial statements. So we also consider the control environment as well, and that determines the level and extent of our audit work. If you go to the next page. So the scope of our services, we have an opinion on the financial statements. We have an examination report that's required by the state of Missouri covering attendance and transportation. We issue what's called a single audit. SSD has a significant amount of federal money. You're required to have two different reports. One is an internal controls over financial reporting. The other is an internal controls over compliance related to the federal money that you got. In addition to that, we have issued agreed upon procedures report required for the Missouri One Star training program. So the major program that we tested that we always have to test every year is IDEA, the special education program. That's the most significant amount of federal money that you guys got during the year. Overall, we didn't have any significant deficiencies, material weaknesses that were identified during our audit. Overall, there are strong internal controls and you have an unmodified audit opinion. If you want to go to the next slide, Tom. As far as the status of where we are complete with our audit. We have to send our management letter to Cindy for signature, and then we will have signed financial statements to you by the end of the week. You want to go to the next page, Tom? Just some required communication. I'm not going to walk through all of these, but overall good cooperation with management. We saw no fraud or illegal activities. In addition to one thing that I want to point out in supporting the district is, as you guys are a little bit shorthanded as a result of the new CFO, we did step up and help you guys in some services that typically is done by the school district, which is specifically helping through the new the leasing standard, GASB 87, as well as software subscriptions. In addition to that, we prepared the financial statements for this special school district. This is all with the initiative of keeping you with the November 15th or 14th deadline. I don't know if you guys have any questions, I'm here to answer them. If not.
A completely clean audit.
Yes, completely clean audit.
Thank you.
Yep.
We have got audit people on this.
Yeah, I really want to reach out to Cindy, yourself and your team, Cindy, your team. Also our community members, Rich Carver, Kelly Alexander was there helping out. And I know Director Sudo was there helping. And so we had lots of folks working together on this. And the thing that's most important to me is we have a clean audit. Nothing found of any concern at all.
Yeah, no, and you know, your financial statements are much more complicated than normal district because a lot of school districts are on a cash basis, which means you only present cash as your asset. You guys have about 40 different assets, and that's because you present your financial statements full accrual. I think one of the things we talked about is the need to present full accrual financial statements. That's something we're going to debrief for Cindy, but you know, she might come to you with thoughts as to different bases of accounting to consider to reduce the stress level on the management team as well as to, you know, staying efficient.
It was also talked about of moving the dates up possibly of when we're doing our audit to help give the teams a little bit more time before the deadline to have the secretary report. So hopefully we'll be able to see a recommendation there too of how we can make that more efficient on the team's time, the employees and so forth, your folks up, you know, to get that done in a better time frame.
Yep. And what we discussed is making sure, you know, your books are closed by October 30th. That was the primary thing. But I mean, overall, even with the tight deadline, you guys still really stepped to the plate and executed and supported us through our audit because we're a larger CPA firm and we have a lot of scrutiny on our audit work. And so the level of testing that we do is going to be more than, you know, the smaller CPA firms that are out there.
Thank you.
So I will add, every school district in the state of Missouri is required to have an annual audit, right? So we have an external firm come in and do an annual audit. The state statute requires that the audit is completed and submitted to DESE by December 31st. So we are unique in the fact that we are bringing our audit report to you early in November, right? So keeping that in mind, you know, it's a tight turnaround with closing our books October 30th, but presenting to you a clean audit opinion by, you know, November 12th. So it is something we're considering, and we will have conversations in our audit debrief to see, you know, what we can do to kind of help our management team out as well as the audit firm out into getting everything done in a timely manner, but still meet deadlines.
And we will be sharing this audit with the governing council so that they know that we have a completely clean audit.
Yes, sir.
Great, that's fantastic. So, Joanne.
Yes, I was on the audit committee as well, and we appreciate the transparency and the work that you did. And I want to commend Cindy Rowman, who joined the district this summer and really dug in and worked hard and worked fast, and for Ms. Vaughn and the whole department for their support in pulling all of this together. And an unmodified opinion is really, it doesn't sound as special as it is. It really is the top. It's the highest level you can have. So knowing that our books are in order is really going to help us. As you know, we're looking at our finances, and to have a clear picture is really important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy and Andrew.
Thank you.
All righty. Next, we have the equity framework. Dr. Diggs.
Good evening, Vice President Cuneo, Dr. Macklin, Superintendent. My name is Dr. Diggs. I'm the Executive Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility for our district. And in this presentation today, what I would like to do is to just shine a light, you know, speak about our goals, speak about the department, the things that we're working on and involved with, and also future work and next steps. Furthermore, my team, which you will meet shortly, you know, we are tasked with two big pieces, and I like to solidify those pieces into two words, and that is to empower and also to advocate for leaders across their places and spaces who are working deeply in the tenets of diversity, equity, inclusion in each of their learning environments. Furthermore, who we are as a group, we are a team of three, you know, small but mighty. But in our size, it is very important for all of us to, yes, shine a light on inequities, but also create a path to where we can, you know, reduce those barriers that hinder our greatest work with students. So furthermore, I would like to get into some areas of focus. Specifically for myself, my area of focus this year is to evolve the equity framework as we're nearing its 5-year term, but more importantly, to establish a deep foundation of inclusive practices, inclusive environments. Then also, what can we do better together to deeply ingrain all of these tenets deeply into our foundation? Furthermore, I also like to focus my work in building capacity. We can lead great work, but if it's not ingrained into our systems and in our DNA, then we will have missed our greatest work. Now, when I speak specifically about my team, our efforts to evolve educational equity could not be done without the support and leadership of two of my teammates. The Director of Equity for Teaching and Learning, who you will meet in just a moment, he is tasked with developing a deep foundation in our professional learning environment around the DEIA structures, tenets, and competencies. Now, on the other side, we have the Director of Equity for Operations and Dr. Chambers, and her work is heavily steeped on supporting the identification of barriers that lead to inequities and then provide solutions to those barriers. And so what I would like to do is, speak very broadly, but also very specific. And that's why I invited my team here today. So please welcome Jeremy Lowe.
Good evening, board members. Pardon me. And good evening, my fellow community members, both here and online. Thank you so much for having me here. It is an honor. Not only have you let me start my journey here at SSD, but I get the privilege of sharing all of the collective efforts that we have done since July. My three focus areas, pardon me, is to ensure that all of our staff members get effective DEIA PD. In order to ensure that, our second focus area is creating a new strategic plan for professional development in order to ensure that there is a diverse amount of classes with accommodations and accessibility for all staff members, which includes a digital access through Canvas as well. And then finally, my third focus area for this year is to ensure that we have look-fors and guidances, and that we're working collaboratively with our schools to ensure that we're reviewing their processes, their handbooks for equity throughout, and in order to make sure that they are able to provide equity in their schools as well. To do so, we really need two tools to move forward with. And as such, because we are in year 5, the integration into practice, I get the honor of creating these tools that allow us to action equity in the classroom as well as in the school and district. The very first tool that we really needed to ensure that everyone got access to effective DEIA training was a developmental stage tool where we know and are able to track where everyone is on their growth journey for DEIA development. From there, we then created a process, a 4-step process with each of our departments, school leaders, and our district leaders on how we're going to create PD that has a through line with what their CSIP goals are going on at that school or site. So in order to do that, we meet first with their leaders. We then talk and interview with them and find out what their strengths are, what their needs and their wants are. We take those efforts and develop a PD along with the DEIA content. For example, an excellent example would be Litzinger, where we worked on creating a cultural appreciation tool for selecting appropriate material in the classroom. As well as with the BCBAs, where we are ongoing a 6-week ongoing leadership development series, as well as with 6 schools that are all working on creating culturally responsive, trauma-informed care frameworks. Lots of amazing activities, projects, and efforts going on in our district while moving forward with equity. As I mentioned, we have our 5 schools that are working on our trauma-informed care that is culturally responsive. And in fact, one of our programs, our Bridges programs, is so far along on this journey that they're working on trauma-responsive strategies. How do you go beyond the informed? How do you make sure that you proactively work with students who have experienced trauma in their background? And then finally, we also have our cross-cultural communication strategies and our culturally appreciation strategies at South Tech, Litzinger, and New Owner, especially because we have so many students who are culturally and linguistically diverse in those sites. We want to ensure that there are multiple ways to provide access, not just in language, but in curriculum and instruction as well. Now that I've had the honor of sharing my information with you and the progress that we've made in teaching and learning, I want to pass it over to my esteemed colleague, Dr. Katie Chambers.
Thank you.
Sorry. Bring it down a little. Good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Macklin, community members here, as well as those online. I'm happy to present to you my work as Director of Equity for Operations for the district. And again, my name is Katie Chambers. I did the same as you, Jeremy. In my role here, I have 4 general focus areas that I work on as Director of Operations. At the district level, I facilitate a group called Employee Engagement for Equity. This is a group of diverse leaders that conduct comprehensive analysis of our positions and department structures across the organization. I also work with departments to engage in examination of our operational practices within departments and how those operational practices result in a climate of inclusion and culture of belonging within the department specific. Currently, I am working with a team of leaders to examine our district processes for contracting services. We are exploring ways on how we intentionally partner with organizations in our community that are aligned to the values that we have as a district. And then lastly, through intentional exploration of opportunities for professional development so that we can equitably serve our students and our staff. This is where I provide resources and learning specific to retention and recruitment processes. Okay, so I'll start as serving as a facilitator of the Employee Engagement and Equity team, referred to as the E3 team. This team engages in a comprehensive analysis of our organizational structures and our job position alignment. We offer solutions as we identify potential inequities that are in the organization. The phases that you see outlined here are consistent with whatever process that we are following. Starts with a request from our superintendent to conduct a comprehensive analysis of any job position in our district or any department specifically in our district. The team establishes the context for the work. We explore various inquiries. What are all of the questions that bubble to the top? And then we engage in a comprehensive analysis, both looking at how the position or the department falls in the organization as a whole, and then also within the organization, position to position or department to department. And then we close each process with bringing a report of any potential inequities that were identified, as well as possible solutions, so that our district leaders are equipped with information they need to move forward with providing potential solutions for the organization. One of the roles that I play in the district is to ensure implementation of the collective actions that engage in that are part of our equity framework. One collective action that has been implemented under my leadership has been the use of a department self-assessment tool. Using various sources, I developed an assessment tool for equity and inclusion, which includes 25 questions examining operational practices within the department. The team examines these practices and identifies where there's an opportunity to change an operational practice, which would have a direct impact on the sense of inclusion and belonging within the department. So currently, in partnership with the technology leadership team, our department is working closely to positively impact that department through the adjustment of some operational practices. I'm also currently working with district leaders in finance and communication as we're looking at our current operational practices of contracting and outsourcing services. The team's aim, again, is to really focus on ensuring that our partnerships with vendors are aligned to the overall goals of the organization. We know that there are many benefits to this, not only the alignment of our district practices with our district policy, our opportunities for our students through vocational service programming and potential employment, as well as just bringing a greater network of services for our students. Finally, through specifically designed professional learning opportunities and modeling of equitable operational practices, our department has had a direct impact on the district's recruitment and retention efforts. In this slide, you can see 2 examples of initiatives which have had an impact both on the instructional and operational groups of employees and educational equity for students. In partnership with the professional learning department and paraprofessional coordinator, our department provides foundation course for all paraprofessionals on the history and scope of equity work of our district and offers tools to have a direct impact on educational equity throughout the county. Our department initiated a transportation hiring fair to address a discovered inequity of students' time on bus routes due to staffing shortages. The team partnered with the transportation leaders, human resources, and communications department to hold a full-day hiring fair. And the team was able to effectively identify over 30 potential candidates for hire during this one-day fair. So at this, I'll leave it with Dr. Diggs to bring us home. And the plane.
All right, thank you, Dr. Chambers. So just a few next steps in the work, and it is threefold. First and foremost is to continue conversations with our CSIP and our strategic plan teams around where we can infuse a few equity considerations in current plans and processes. Number two, we have a small group of individuals across the district where we're meeting together to further understand where might we have the greatest quote unquote bang for our buck when it comes to KPIs on how we can measure educational equity across the district. And so we're meeting again in a couple weeks. And then third is through the equity framework, which gave us an amazing foundation for branching equity across the district. We have been able to develop some tools from that framework. And so with those tools, they will be reviewed by our district leadership team for full implementation across the district. Some things that we've created within our department. And so with that said, for developments that I have led, I tend to end with a quote, and I would like to use this one none other than Helen Keller. Alone, again, we could do so little, but imagine what we could do together, which would be so much. Are there any questions?
I don't have a question, but I do have a couple of comments. One, I appreciate Dr. Chambers putting the alignment to the CSIP on her slides. It helps me, and also it means that there's intentionality with your work. So thank you for that. Also, I just wanted to acknowledge on slide 13 where it says that the Bridges teachers will be co-presenting professional development. I think it's extremely important for practitioners to talk to practitioners, because folks, as an educator, people feel like if you're removed from the work, you don't really get it. And so to have practitioners talk to practitioners is important. So thank you for that.
Absolutely, thank you. All right. Any other questions? All right.
Yeah, I want to thank you for the work. I think I agree. I love seeing this aligned with the CSIP. I'm fortunate to have come from U City where equity was really a focus. It's really part of the district, and it has been for many decades. And I just like seeing this get baked in to everything we do. I think looking at everything with an equity lens is so important. So I appreciate this work so much. And I know Dr. Macklin started this work, and you're continuing it beautifully. You said this is the 5th year of the 5-year plan. Do you know what's next?
This is a great question. So it's a few things, I'm gonna piggyback on your comment about baking it into the system and knowing just how deep we can go if it's part of everything we do, right? Whether it's the air we breathe or the food in our sustenance. If we're able to further identify hey, what are our processes, practices, and procedures that we have that are almost routine, what can we also do in that space when it comes to access? Is there anything that we may be missing? Can we go further in any place and space? So I was able to develop a strategic equity framework to where we can sit down with current CSIP teams and also talk with them with their current goals on, again, is there a consideration that we can also infuse that may be missing in the process? A few of those topics that are part of the matrix is resource distribution, access and participation. Are we missing community voice when we're making these deeper decisions? And so through the matrix that I'll be using with various teams in our district, that'll help us go a little bit further after the framework has sunset.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
One quick question. I know what MeBe Weeby are, and I understand that acronym. What does SDVOBE acronym stand for?
I'm gonna hand that over to Dr. Chambers because this is the chief of her work. So if you don't mind.
Yeah. Service
Disabled.
Yeah.
Disabled veteran.
Service disabled veteran
Service
business.
disabled veterans.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
great. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Good
And
job.
thank you all.
All right.
Thank you.
Dr. Bolton, it would not be a meeting unless you presented. And you got your water. Good. Thank you.
You get me for 3 more presentations.
All right, strategic plan and continuous school improvement plan. It is yours.
Yes. So good evening. Dr. Cuneo, Board of Directors, Dr. Macklin, my name is Molly Bolton, and I am the Executive Director of Teaching, Learning, and Accountability. And my first presentation tonight is just the first quarter update on our strategic and CSIP plans. Let's see, I have the clicker. So just a reminder, this is the third year of our plan. So that's really exciting. This is the first quarter. And remember, this is a 5-year plan. So as always, this slide should look very familiar to you. Just delineating the difference between the strategic plan and the CSIP plan. Just a few quick updates. Strategic plan tends to look at the district as a whole, including operational and instructional. The CSIP plan, or Comprehensive School Improvement Plan, tends to focus on specific student impact measures. So with that, we'll jump into strategic plan first, and our first goal being around those data-based systems. And so we are continuing to work on this monster of a project, and definitely have hit some bumps in the road. As you might remember, we were working with MoreNet to find a partner to help us develop a data system. So we have gathered some proposals from educational analytics and authentication for some data integration. And so we're kind of working with them now to see how we might be able to integrate some of the partner district data in with our data so that we can have a whole picture of our data and do better analysis. Continuing with data governance, this is a big job, and Dr. Macklin will tell you every time we sit in a meeting and we say, wow, our data is really messed up. I say data governance, data governance.
That is correct. That is correct.
So this is huge. This is a huge job. We are a huge district. We have a lot of data, and our data tends to be a mess. And so this small, mighty team is really trying to work, but there's a lot to be done, and they also have other jobs besides sitting on this committee. So it's moving kind of slow, but we are working through it. And they are kind of focused on ensuring our location data throughout the district is standardized. So that's kind of their first part there. Our second goal is around supporting students to meet their greatest potential through our resources. So if you remember 2.1, where we kind of gathered what resources each department was utilizing, has been completed, and that information was passed on to 2.2. So currently 2.2 is working a lot on mapping the staffing levels and looking at a 6-year trend for that. And the reason why we're looking so broadly is because of COVID, right? COVID kind of messed with our data. So really looking at that 6-year distribution and kind of seeing how the Distressed Community Index, or DCI, has impacted that as well. And so they will be developing and communicating the resource allocation plan soon. That's their next steps. For goal 3, that's our communication strategy. So within that goal, we have our business and agencies that we work with in the community. And Andy Harpering is the head of that strategy. And they have just finished a frequently asked questions document for folks that are going to be in partnership with us. They really worked hard on that to ensure that questions are asked when people come in. It was really interesting when they first started this strategy. They interviewed many of our partners, and they really didn't know a lot about us, even though they were partnering with us. So ensuring that they understand who we are and what we have to offer, as well as what they may offer us. Next steps is really looking at levels of partnership and what that might mean, and then finalizing that FAQ. Second sub-strategy here is our family engagement strategy. And as you might know, we had the point of contact that came in year 1 of this, and that is where any student who enters our system for evaluation, we make sure and have a contact with those families. And even if that student goes on to not qualify for services, we still want to ensure those families can access us and have resources provided to them. And so we have done an improvement cycle on that point of contact information, just to make sure it's working for our families and any tweaks that we might have made to make that a little bit better. Also, the Partners for Success handbooks. We do those, we used to do those for the SSD schools all the time. We now this year have also done kind of a generic one for our partner districts so that families know how to access things within our partner districts. And those can be found on our websites. Communication plan for partner districts, social workers, and counselors, and how they can all work together. And then our family toolkit and supports for families, and our government and community and SSD resources. So developing that resource guide that has all of those different resources in it for our families to access as well. And then developing the survey for our family quality indicators so that school districts who are really working on those major high quality practices for family engagement have a tool to do a pre and post measurement assessment on those quality indicators to see where they're growing and to also identify areas that they might choose to focus on for growth. Next steps for them, scheduling a time to share with the partner success booklets with the curriculum folks as well as the social workers. Social workers often have a direct line to our families, so we want to make sure that they're aware of those resources to share with our families. Continuing to develop those partnerships in the partner districts. And they have shared recently at the student service directors meeting, as well as the liaison meetings. And then working on an infographic to simplify the evaluation process for our families. And some of that work was with Jeremy Lowe, who presented to you earlier. He was in Portland School District and shared some resources that they had there that we would like to replicate for our families here. The third and final one for the strategic plan is the communication system among departments. This is Chantel Chandler, and their committee has recently piloted a brand identity process. And you just saw a little bit of that because they did it with the equity department. So those first few slides in the equity department, that was part of that work. Really looking at that. They also updated their theory of change that they were working on and finalized the communication resource for the DLT presentation. So they're going to be continuing the pilot and really looking at that process that they used for that brand identity and determining how they might be able to roll that out into other departments. And they are also going to be looking at engaging internal stakeholders to get some feedback on that. Move now to our comprehensive school improvement plan updates. So our first goal being proactively providing for student success. Our long range planning, which Tammy Yates and Casey Wisdom are the champions for. They have reviewed our special education process modules, our training modules that we have for our staff, and determining if there are any updates that we need for the charting the life course pieces. That future focus or long-term planning focus is what we utilize those tools for. They also got some feedback, and this was kind of an interesting partnership with a doctoral student from Penn State, looking at tiered systems and the way we can infuse self-determination into those tiered models. So some really exciting things happening with that, and that work will continue. Develop some training for those self-determination modules, really looking and focusing on that assessment piece. So what might that formative assessment look like? What might that summative assessment look like? And then again, just rolling out those charting the life course trainings with different school districts. 11 of the 22 partner districts are now engaged in that training for their special education staff and their action planning with those districts. Some of their next steps include looking at an alternative self-determination survey for our students that are our most complex learners. The one we have currently is pretty language focused. So our students who struggle with language, how can we make that more simple, but yet still make it meaningful for them? And right now they are really working on with Northview and Litzinger on developing some prototypes and piloting those out and trying those with those students. And then they also are piloting a training then with Lafayette High School in Rockwood. 1.2 is looking at the connections between the data and the research factors. And Alan Wheat is the champion for that. So really looking at connecting that distressed communities index with other student data over time and seeing the impact of that. So really looking at refining and testing their protocol dashboards that they have developed around that work, and then also integrating that data then in with strategy 1.1, which is that long range planning. The final strategy on this goal is looking at that collaborative planning with our partners, and Chiquita Moore is the champion for that. Got some survey data from the committees to really look at the areas of focus for those partnerships and collaboration, and definitely outlining those next steps for that committee. So their plan is to then take a deep dive into that data and then start to plan some focus groups around the partnership agreement and the principal collaboration tool, and then communicating and sharing that data. The second goal in the CSIP is looking at decision-making. And so the first strategy there is 2.1, and that's really around developing our philosophy as a district. Dr. Grigsby has been the champion of that. She is now sharing that workload with Dr. Chad Lent. So together they are kind of leading that committee, and they are working on that handoff process. The nice thing is Dr. Lent had been a part of that committee, so was very aware of what was going on in that committee. But really using the data and the research to really look at equity and service of delivery models. We've talked with the board several times before about across the district. We call our different service models lots of different things, and they may look very different depending on where you go. So really trying to look at the research and determine what are those best practices and how can we standardize that across the district. Also working on reconfiguring the team. Again, and then reviewing the intervention programs and the time needed for fidelity to support those specific delivery models. So knowing that we want to be doing our interventions with fidelity, so then how does our service delivery models play into that? 2.2 is the evidence-based strategy, and that we currently have a subcommittee still continuing to work on that core program course guide for our partner districts. We have finished the social emotional learning pieces. I'm still working on literacy and math. Those are a little bit bigger and broader, if you will, a lot more programs out there that our partners are using that we want to dig into. And then the second piece is we are crafting our end user interviews for our evidence-based practice guide. And we spoke on that before, where we're really looking at a lot of those evidence-based practice tools that we have developed or have used, and making sure that we have it all kind of in a one-stop shop for our users, and folks are able to access those easily. So continuing to work on both of those pieces moving forward. Our final goal is Kevin Andert's goal, looking at our students in transition. So really looking at their theory of change, and based on the journey mapping that they have done previously, to see if there's any tweaks or changes they needed to make on that. They did identify 3 action steps. So basically developing a best practice guides for whenever a student enters into the district or exits from the district. So what are those things teachers need to be thinking about and doing with both entering and exiting? Doing a quick start card for registration across the county. Each one of our districts has a different registration process. So really helping our families navigate that and understand that is really, really important. And then updating the teacher handbook with a checklist. So when they do receive a new student, they remember all the things they need to be checking into. And hopefully that'll be a nice little guide for them just to pick up. We got a new student, pick it up, and let's go through the checklist. And then they also added a member from our FACE, our Family and Community Engagement Department, as they will be working a lot with families. So working through those action steps and succession planning for how to sustain the processes once this strategy team is completed. What questions might you have about this? Yes, go ahead.
Very good presentation, very in-depth. I've got about three different things that really crossed my mind. The first one was all the data we're collecting.
Yes.
It looks like we're collecting a lot of data.
Mhm.
But how are we using that so that we're not duplicating, we're not overburdening all these committees with the same kinds of data? And I guess my real concern is knowing how many kids are on IEPs, knowing what goals they're having, knowing the time. How do we try to infuse that all together with where we're going? Would be probably one of the first questions. Is there a software program? I know Tom and I sat in several sessions about different software programs for board policies, and
Sure.
because they're constantly changing and we need to update them and we need to share them. And how do we make that happen in a district our size?
Mhm. So specifically for the IEP, we do have our Phoenix system, which would have all the goals, the evaluation, the current IEPs, past IEPs, our progress monitoring reports and things all are housed in that system. But you're right. And that's why we have strategy team 1.1
Yeah.
is to really look at, we have a plethora of data in many different places. How do we get that all in one place? And that's kind of the unicorn right now. That unicorn of that system that all 22 of our districts can feed into, and we can feed our own data into. And it's pretty complex.
And maybe we need to be unique and say we need to develop our own.
And that we have discussed that, and that takes a lot of resources that I'm just not sure we have the capacity to handle
At this
right
time.
now. Yes, but maybe.
At some point.
Yes.
The second thing I kind of thought about was all the guides we're developing. As a parent, I get really overwhelmed with all the stuff. If we can somehow simplify it, reading level. I also look at the IEP, as you mentioned,
Mhm.
and the 20 pages or so of an IEP. It's almost overwhelming for a lot of parents, including myself, to go through all that and look at it all. And my wife's like, where's so-and-so's, with 4 kids on IEPs and all, where's this one's IEP? Where's this page? What's going on here? Is there a way to simplify those guides,
Mhm.
even for our teachers? I mean, I think they're putting together those IEPs, they're putting together all those, interventions and everything else. And it seems like it's so overwhelming. And then we're coming up with committees to create even more guides and checklists for them to deal with. Can we simplify that so there's less instead of more? And maybe it's pulling those guides together and say, if we do this guide, it'll replace these things.
Right. And I think that's what we do try to do. For example, right now, the Family and Community Engagement team is working on a family handbook. Our family handbook that we used to have was almost 200 pages, and we are simplifying that down, and trying to make it more streamlined, trying to make it more straightforward for our families. So I do think that is something that committees are taking into account. When you look at the CSIP team 2.2, when you're looking at those evidence-based tools, one of the first things we did was go through and look at all the tools we have to see what the needs were and the usage.
Right.
If folks aren't using them, do we really need them?
So you really
know,
did some really in-depth work on that.
Trying
And
to.
we don't want to lose that.
Sure.
And the last thought I'm having is we get knocked every year by DESE because our kids aren't performing high on these assessments. Now, is there some way to use all this data to not create another thing, but to be able to synthesize and say to DESE, hey, look at what we're doing with
Mhm.
our kids.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be put here for test scores when we're dealing with these kids with IEPs and so forth. Is there any kind of thought on how do we use this work these committees are doing very well on? And
Yeah.
say, how do we synthesize this so that our kids are being recognized like they should be?
And
On
if you-
growth as opposed to
Sure.
high marks.
And if you think back to the presentation that Kevin Andert did recently about our work with DESE, we are hoping to get there. If you think about those positive post-secondary outcomes that our board has adopted, through the work of CSIP 1.1. And the state is very excited about that, because that is something that can be not just special school district, but could be statewide. So I think you're going to see some of that come through that innovation waiver that Kevin presented.
Well, I want to compliment you guys on the work you're doing. I know it's a lot of extra work in the committee work and involving teachers and parents and everybody else, bringing them all together. And I know it takes a lot of time, but to see the results that can come from this and how we're really taking good things and saying, oh, this may not be as good. Let's stick with the good things. And
Absolutely. Always continuously improving.
Right.
That's the goal. Absolutely.
sorry.
One thing, and I was just wondering, this. When you go to slide 5, and you talked about interfacing with other districts, sharing information, I applaud you for your work, applaud you for all of the effort. But for 24 years, there's 2 things that I've heard. We can't integrate with 22, or with that time it was 23 districts, because everybody's different. And wouldn't it be nice to have a single school calendar? Now, I've given up on school calendars. I mean, that one's beyond me. But is there a way that somehow us and the partner districts possibly even apply for some type of federal grant to talk about getting a system that interfaces? It would not only improve our students, it could conceivably improve all students in this area. What happens is, as Joe was saying, we got tons of data. But wouldn't it be nice to be able to use that data? Wouldn't it be nice to use that data that's in the partner districts? I mean, they're rich in data, we're rich in data, but we're not rich in integration of data.
And that's kind of the whole purpose.
I
Yeah.
know every year I keep hearing the same thing. What will we have to do to have an interface between our systems?
And that's what that strategy team is working on, is to come up with a solution for that.
Will it be done in my lifetime?
I hope so.
No, and I'm not trying to be facetious
No, but
here,
it
but
is a
this has been an
unicorn. Yes.
ongoing difficulty forever.
Yes.
And I know that we have 22 different districts, but it would be nice if we could do something with this.
We talk about data.
I hate to put you on a spot, Doug, but
No.
this has
Yeah,
been an
that's
ongoing deal.
I've been with you here for a long time, working on this exact problem. So to your point on grants, the strategy team that we're working on, we actually have 2 different grants that are part of that, that we're using to try to get that to going. Unfortunately, we lost a lot of momentum because we partnered with the Missouri Research and Education Network, MoreNet, and they settled on a vendor, and they went through an RFP process for a vendor, and we were pretty far into that process, and that vendor then pulled out. And so they were tied to a grant, and we had to start that whole process all over again. So unfortunately, and you've been here long enough, that story has repeated itself.
Yeah, I mean, this
multiple times.
And I'm not knocking anybody
Right,
here, but this is.
But
everybody talks like this is the pie in the sky.
Right.
If we could, we've got all the data. Let's use it.
So we're working with the Michael Dell Foundation, and they have this data structure called EdFi, and it's a national data standard. And so that's what we're kind of pinning our hopes on, is using a national standard. The state of Missouri made a decision to move towards using an EdFi system for all their state reporting, and previously they put out an RFP and started working with some vendors to do that. And we're working with all of our partner districts. All of our partner districts now have student information systems that also support this EdFi standard. So we're getting really, really, really close. But again, we do have 22 partner districts,
and 95% of our kids are in districts.
Correct.
So what if we're going to be able to do something, we need to all work together.
Right, and
to all
I,
share the same data.
I actually meet with all the partner district technology directors and talk about data integration twice a year. And the reality is everybody had, not everybody, but about half the county had to change student information systems this past year. And so all of the work that we were trying to get going on that had to stop because they had to completely switch their student information systems. But now we're in a spot where I think we're having these conversations again. I actually provide data to all of the partner districts for core data reporting purposes because we are the educator on record for any students that we're providing special education services to, and they have to report that. And we have that data in our systems. So I'm feeding that out. It's just been a very slow process to get stuff back from them, but that's where we're headed now. And once we can start getting that information about how the students are doing in their district compared to the general education students in their district, I think that is going to open up all kinds of insights to us when we're providing interventions and services to the students. And Matt Glazier and Matt Trauber, Matt Glazier too, but Matt Trauber and I have been working on what are these standards? What information do we actually need of all this data that we're collecting? Which ones are actually key indicators? And so we've provided that, and we're trying to work with that. And again, we've been working with the EdFi has a national council, and we've been working with them, and they're very interested in working with us. But some of the data points that we think that are the most impactful for us actually don't even exist in this EdFi standard yet.
Mhm.
So we're trying to work that out. Like, can you expand this standard and then push this out nationwide? Because I think nationwide, these data indicators are going to be important.
If we're gonna,
So
see, I can't justify in my mind collecting tons of data and never using it.
right.
Years ago, I ran a max secure hospital. We kept all the data on seclusion and restraints, sent it back into Springfield, this is in Illinois, sent it all into Springfield. We never did anything with it. I never could quite figure out why I'm collecting all this data. You know, we could use it for staffing. I could find out when the problems were, you know, I could have additional staffing there. We could stop people from getting hurt. I'm thinking if we got all this data, let's not collect everything we have, but what we collect, let's use and make assumptions. Let's make assumptions. Let's make decisions that are data based. That makes sense to me. So, yeah.
Well, I really appreciate what you're telling us, and thank you for coming up here, because I see a huge alignment from what you're saying and what Dr. Bolton's trying to get accomplished with her committees and our curriculum, and we'll bring our budget into this too somehow, I'm sure, and we'll all be aligned going the same direction, which is the goal, I guess.
Yeah, I also am very happy for this because this shows us we could be on the cutting edge of this. If we in turn figure out a way to utilize the data from our students and get that data back to their districts, besides their district getting back to us, we can help a lot of kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And it helps with continuity of service, and it helps with transition. It helps with lots of things that we struggle with right now. Absolutely.
No, that makes me feel a lot better.
So
Thank
sorry.
you.
No, thank you. Thank you.
No. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to make one. Hopefully we get an update on the innovation waiver soon. I was thinking about that not too long ago.
We are hopeful too.
Yes. And then also I just want to reference slide 7, goal 3.2. I'm not on it right now. And I just think it's important to continue to say that when we talk about how we are providing resources to families, that it is great if we make things better for families that are already accessing our resources. But it's also extremely important that we are having more families access our resources. So I just want to know, or if you have any update, I know it's just first quarter,
Sure.
but if there's anything to be shared about like how how families who have previously not accessed our resources are currently accessing them. Do we have any data around that right now?
I can definitely get you some data around that of who is accessing and what they're accessing and how they're accessing it.
Yeah.
Yes, we definitely have that data from FACE. What I will tell you is, we have a lot of offerings. This is Family Engagement Month. I'll just put a plug in for that, for November, and our FACE department has tons of great activities going on. We just started our Family Leadership Institute, and we have a variety of districts represented in that institute. So we're excited about that. We also have our family cafes that are happening and new families coming in all the time into those. We have some stories that I'm hoping we're getting some permission to share with you guys, some success stories from those. And so there's just been some very powerful connections and social networking with the families themselves and the
Good.
families themselves taking care of each other and making sure they're okay. And it's just been very, very powerful.
I agree. I've shared those events as much as I can on my social media. And also, like, I've had people from like Voice of the People, which is a grassroots news sharing platform in St. Louis, reach out and ask questions about how families can access things, resources, and I've shared all of our FACE things. So I'm happy to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I will get you that data in the Friday packet. Ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
We got 2 more to go.
do you have enough water?
I do. Thank you so much for checking. All right, I'm gonna
Oh, we're
ask.
still on number 1.
That was number 1, guys. All right, so for the second report, this is our MSIP monitoring reports. And so with me, I have Dr. Charbro, who will be coming through this with us as well. So first few slides should be pretty familiar to you. Our purpose of these is to fulfill the DESE requirement for our program evaluation and monitoring. Also making sure our stakeholders are aware of how our programs are performing, and then just using that continuous improvement cycle. So tonight, he's going to be reporting out on our applied behavior analysis, our ABA division, as well as homebound services, purchase of service, and our SNAP, our special non-public access program. With that, I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm going to provide you with a really high level update on how we are monitoring these 4 programs. And so you've seen this visual before. This is just an example of the tables that appear in the individual monitoring reports. This is annotated to show you what is in each column of those tables. So we list the indicator, we list the target that we're trying to meet for each indicator. We provide the actual results, which are color coded to help you know which direction things are headed. And then we also provide supporting details to provide more information about the measures themselves or interpretations of the trends. So the first program is applied behavioral analysis. This program is essentially measured in 2 different ways. The first way is via the outcome grid that they use as part of that program. The first 2 indicators in that table reflect that. So basically that program assesses students at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, and they examine the degree to which students are making progress both in adaptive skill areas and the extent to which learning barriers are decreasing. So they updated that grid just within the last couple of years, which is why only 1 year of data is available. The last 3 indicators all connect to stakeholder surveys that are administered through ABA. Those are given to both our educators for SSD and partner districts, as well as to families. So for the purpose of this report, we hone in on a couple specific questions on that survey, including whether our staff feel supported by ABA staff and the extent to which our educators perceive that what's being taught in the ABA setting is generalizing to other settings. So over the last 3 years, for those surveys, the targets have been met across those questions. So homebound services is the second report. Their indicators, they have 3 of them. This is a program that's monitored every other year. The first indicator looks at the extent to which initial student applications are assigned a teacher in 3 days or less. So it's speaking to the efficiency with which we are setting students up with services. And currently, and over the last couple of years, we're meeting that objective at a very high rate. The homebound department just revised the surveys that they use for stakeholders. So that constitutes the second and third indicator there. There's a survey for parents. There's a survey for stakeholders. The item speaks to overall impressions of the programming. We're just a little bit below the target in the first year of administration of that survey. So staff are digging into those results and thinking about how they could improve them. Purchase of service is a program that we monitor on an annual basis. They have 4 outcome indicators, including attendance, the extent to which students are transitioning to less restrictive environments, and then the last 2 pertain to academic growth. Attendance is something that we are constantly working with our POS agencies on and trying to improve. It's challenging for that population of students given hospitalizations and other medical concerns that can make it difficult for a student to attend 90% of the time during a school year. In 2024 is the first year that more than 5% of students had returned to a less restrictive environment. So that's a positive result. With respect to the STAR assessment, which measures growth in reading and math, in the prior year, the students attending POS on average grew to a lesser degree than what was common in our SSD separate public schools. So I know that our POS administrator is working very closely with those agencies to examine their programming, ensure students are assessed consistently, et cetera. This graph just shows a trend of our private separate placement rates over time. So the blue line represents SSD and the gray line represents the statewide trend. So immediately, 2 things stick out. One is that the statewide trend is significantly higher than our SSD trend. That is probably largely attributable to the fact that we have separate public schools in St. Louis County. But another thing to point out is that in 2023, the rate of private separate placements was at its lowest that it's been in at least 12 years. So the general trend over the last few years has been fewer students have been receiving services through those private separate agencies. Finally, the 4th program that we monitored this cycle is the SNAP program, or Special Non-Public Access Program. They have 3 indicators that we use for monitoring. The first one is just the extent to which they successfully complete this consultation agreement that's required on an annual basis. Necessitates close coordination with all of our parochial partners. The second indicator is a family satisfaction survey that is currently in the process of being revised. So there will be a result for 2024-25. In the previous year, they've really put a lot of effort towards working on the pilot for SNAP that's being implemented this school year. So they did solicit feedback from a lot of our partners last year, but just not in the form of this particular survey. Finally, an indicator, the third one here is initial eligibility rate. So part of the training that we provide to our parochial partners is around what constitutes a high quality special education referral. And this result speaks to that. So we want initial eligibility rates that are relatively on par with what we see in our public settings. And for the last 4 years, we have been pretty close to that, between 7 and 10 percentage points within the eligibility rate for our public schools. What questions can I answer?
Just one quick question on the ABAs. Can you get me the numbers? I don't have an N on any of those.
Yes, and I think those ends should be in the report. So we will look at that and we'll definitely get them to you if they're in their report.
Thank you. Okay, so any other questions? Molly, number 3.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the third and final report for this evening. So this was a board request for this presentation about the caseload formula pilot. Alan Wheat will be joining me on this one. All right, so purpose of this is just to really give you, you gotta scoot this way. Just bother. Is really to kind of review the history and the purpose of what the caseload formula is. Then really kind of look at the technical pieces that we've been working through as we've developed this pilot, review the pilot, and then kind of what our next steps will be. So to begin with, this work group met starting in the spring of 2023. And it really wanted to look at caseload calculations as was outlined through the negotiation process. And so really as through the negotiation process, it was identified and actually it was interesting because even in open comments tonight, we heard a lot of this with caseloads not being just the number of kids we have, right? There are several factors that impact a teacher's workload. And so really looking at a formula that kind of honors those other factors that impact a teacher's workload. So we did do a 4-day summit that included SDNEA reps as well as a lot of administration from the district and really looked at what factors should we consider as we're looking at that caseload calculation. And so if you look at the box there, that is a list of the folks that were a part of that work group that we would like to give a shout out to. Do you want to go? How do you want to do it?
Good evening. So in this process, we looked for several different ways to recognize the work and effort necessary to complete their tasks as educators. So in that summit, we identified those factors, as Molly mentioned, some of those factors being things such as, yeah, that's true. So in developing this process, the work and the way that educators work were categorized in some very particular ways, which allows us to recognize the different types of roles that our educators complete. So there's resource type classroom teachers, there's teachers that focus on students with more intensive needs. So all of those different types of service delivery models we're developing and are able to reflect differently based on the way that their education work is implemented. So these are those service delivery models.
I'm sorry to interrupt you in the middle of the presentation.
Sure.
Would you please go back to slide 4 and
Yes.
define those acronyms? I forgot to ask for that before the meeting.
Yes, so ESI is our student data loading platform. And actually, I am not recalling what the acronym stands for, but it's the built-in program we use to communicate students into and out of Phoenix. Okay. So SIMES is our work unit that focuses on the nature of Phoenix and caseload work and communicates between ESI and Phoenix. Oh, great, Doug. Thank you.
Doug knows
ESI.
ESI is basically like it's our mini student information system for students that don't attend our schools. It's special. It's education, demographic records for all the students that either are receiving services from us or being diagnosed for receiving services or being evaluated for services. It actually stands for, I hate to say this, it actually stands for Exceed Student Integration, and that's from a software that we don't use anymore, but that was the name of the software when we built it. So, and then SIMES stands for Special Education Information Management and Services.
Okay, is this data can the other 22 districts integrate to this data, or is this just our
So
data?
currently, this is how I'm sending data to all of the
Okay,
other
so
school
they
districts.
get this. Okay, good.
Correct. But I will say there are varying degrees of capabilities in districts to absorb that data effectively that we're sending out. And part of that is because half of them had to change their student information system. So we had instances where we did have that data automated and then they changed systems and now we have to re-automate all of that. And so I'm currently working through all that with the
So they
districts.
have to refile? I mean, they're putting in their data again, duplicating the data.
Yeah, some of the districts have had a lot of difficulty with the transition to their student information system, period. So bringing in our data is kind of not really high on the priority.
This
So,
is the reason why.
yeah.
We need a transformational data system where one system works with other systems.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. I'll be so glad when you get that done.
Yes, me too. Me too.
24 years I've waited for this.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Actually, I appreciate that. I had forgotten the exceed component.
Yeah, I know.
So these are those
Yeah.
service delivery models that was identified through the summit. So our administrators have categorized our educators by the service delivery model that they implement most dominantly. There's some educators that do more than one model, and the one that they're identified by is their dominant model. Okay, so the way that this process is working is really very exciting for me as being data oriented, is it starts with how much time that an educator has available to them, which for most teachers is 2250. That's the 7.5 hours times 5 days. Then we start pulling the minute weight of the identified factors. So as an example, an SLP that is supporting augmentative communication, for each instance of that will have 30 minutes of time pulled against their available time. The sum of all of their instructional minutes is also pulled away from that time. And that when you combine all of those factors, you end up with a metric that says this is how much time is left over. So very exciting work from my perspective, and really will allow us to get very detailed and very accurate in our understandings of the workload.
So we will be providing a couple handouts. I apologize that I did not get those to you, so I'll make sure. But we will provide with the service delivery models a bigger handout for you, so it's not so small. As well as previously there, we have the caseload simulator. There's an explanation handout that really digs down into all the different pieces of this. So I want to make sure you have that. So those will be provided in your Friday packet. And then once we kind of got all this together, we took it back to that work group, that original work group from the summit, and got some feedback in November of last year. And these are the different factors. And again, I'll have this as a handout for you, so you'll have it a little bit bigger too. You can see that some of those components we can pull from our systems, such as Phoenix, which is our IEP program, and our ESI system. But some of those components, we don't necessarily have a system to pull them from. So we consider those manual configured. Some things around that would be advisory time. You know, if you've looked at our high schools across the county, each one of them has a different amount of time they have for advisory. So that's something that cannot be automatized. And so we are looking though, and you'll see this in our next steps, of how can we automatize some of those if possible, because we know if it's manually entered, that's more margin of error. Okay. So then our tech department, want to give them a huge shout out. Doug's team, Marcus Shane was our one of our main contacts on this, put in over 1,000 man hours, really developing, mocking up the system, really developing support documents to go with it, doing the quality assurance and making sure everything was in place for us to then begin the pilot. This will be another handout that I give you. So basically they developed 3 major screens. The top screen being the screen where where administrators would put in that service delivery model. So is this teacher, we know this is a special education teacher. Is this teacher teaching in a resource classroom, in a co-taught classroom, in a self-contained type classroom? So that's what those service delivery models are that were listed on that rainbow sheet previously. Then there is the second piece, which is the caseload specialty. This is where we configure those specific components. So those automatic components would come out in there, as well as those manual components that you see on that component list. And then the last screen that they developed is our threshold screen.
Okay.
And this is the screen that we're really working to identify from the pilot what acceptable thresholds are. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that. So then we move into our pilot. We're doing a 1-year pilot. We do have 3 districts and 1 of our SSD schools involved in the pilot. We wanted to do a large, medium, and small district so we could get the perspectives of all of those. We know service delivery models may look very different depending on the size of your district and the number of staff you have. So really wanted to make sure we captured that. We also wanted to ensure that we captured a variety of places in the county. So you'll see we have Maplewood, Richmond Heights, which is more centrally located, and a small Riverview, which north school that's a medium size, and then Rockwood, which is west and a larger. And then New Owner across the parking lot also agreed to be a part of it. These are some of the questions that we are hoping to answer. So making sure we're measuring the correct components, making sure our thresholds are appropriate, as well as looking at the amount of work it takes to enter those manual components for our administrative staff. What's the frequency that we need to revisit that to keep it most current? And again, like I said before, automating some of those if we can. Some different methods of data collection. We are doing effort logs from our administrators to see how much effort they're having to put in, especially for those manual components. And then we are about to embark upon some focus group interviews. And that will be with all of the staff, looking at the thresholds we have currently set, which we use some high level data dashboards that Alan had put together to kind of determine, we think this is about where it should be, but we really want to get the feel for the folks in the trenches, if you will, and see what their perspective is on those thresholds we have set. We are doing quarterly meetings with the administrative group to get feedback, things that might be missing, things we might need to tweak, as well as the work group. So that work group can be updated quarterly to know what's happening. We are also analyzing the data that we're getting from that, and we're looking at monthly analyzation there. It just started in October. Because we finally have some data in there to really look at it. And then again, trying to automatize. So we will have a final report from the pilot this summer once everything is completed. So kind of our next steps, and some of these have already happened, right? So introducing the administrators that were going to participate in the pilot. We began implementation August 1st. We did a check-in, just a quick kind of nuts and bolts. What do you need from us check-in on September 6th? And then we started that monitoring of the data this October. We have had our first focus group with our administrators the first part of November last week. And then you can see January, March, and June, we will have additional meetings with them. Our interviews with the staff, we have a lot of staff to interview. So we are looking at November, December, and January to complete those focus groups and interviews. We're in the process right now of getting a randomized sample in order to start conducting those. And then we do have an implementation team, which includes myself, Tammy McCrellis from SDNEA, as well as Marcus Shane from Technology, and Alan. We meet monthly to kind of see how things are going, to talk about, answer any questions or clarifications that we might have as a team and what our next steps might be. And then, like I said, that final report will happen in June. So now we'll open it up for any questions that you might have.
I just have a quick question on slide 5 where it talks the rainbow slide.
Yeah.
What are additional resources? So it has the model and then some of them have additional resource next to it.
Yep. So that might mean that they they have like, for example, in the very first one for self-contained, they might have a self-contained room with students with autism, but they may also provide resource services for some other students in that school.
So that's
So
an
that would be
additional
like-
resource, not resources. Got it.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Would it be possible, on that final report in June? I'd actually hope that we could have a work study on this whole thing. This is massive implications on our budget, massive implications on our staffing plan, since staff's our biggest budget
Sure.
item. And if I remember right, the young lady who's sitting back there today presented talking about the whole pilot, the whole staffing plan. I think this is very important to our own staff that are working now.
Absolutely.
I'd love to have a better understanding of this and the results that come, because if this is an effective tool, it can be used to project, forecast, and probably make decisions on our budget and on our staffing for years to come.
That would be our hope.
That's actually the call of action in the summit. The, our partnership with the SDNEA representatives. That was a enormous part of the component is making sure that the district had data which was representative of the actual work of our employees, rather than simply what the IEP says. Because we know there's a lot of things. And I want to restate what Molly said about thanking the technology department. There was a tremendous amount of effort that went into putting it together. But the benefit that is already manifested is we've already had multiple conversations where we identified things that we didn't identify in the summit. And the way that this has been designed through technology department allows us to change our understandings, change the things that we focus on without needing to do a redesign.
It completely, and also it dovetails into the whole equity program.
Correct.
This could be extremely important.
And part of the CSIP work on the Distress Community Index, one of the factors that we identified gets to the concept that in certain parts of our county, when there are substantial community factors that are significant, one student doesn't necessarily represent the work of only one student. Because if you are in a very low mobility district, you might start and end the year with the same 15 children. If you're in a district with high mobility, you might start and end the year with 15 children, but during that time, you might have actually intersected with 25 students.
Yeah.
So.
Luann?
Sure, this is very interesting. I'm excited that this is happening. And can't wait to see how it turns out. I'd love to hear anything you have to share so far. My question for you right now is, did you realign any staff in the pilot districts? Did you use these metrics to realign staff before you started this? Or did you just use the staff that were already in place?
We use the staff that were already in place.
And do you have any early findings that you can share, or
We've only analyzed the data once in October, so I would say it's too early to say. And really, I think a key factor in this is, we have numbers, but we need to get that staff input, which will happen during those interview focus group process.
This is a year to get the system tuned in to make sure that it actually represents accurately the workload components. So we would not want to draw any conclusions until we've been able to calibrate with
the staff.
And I know you're looking at staff impact, obviously, when you present this data. Are you making any allowances for looking at student impact?
Or say that last part.
Student impact to see what the realigned workload does to student achievement?
That has not really been a factor that we've looked at, but definitely, I think looking at the workload of a teacher, it is going to have a definite impact.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Interested to hear all the.
Well, we could certainly dig into it and see what kind of correlations we find.
I'd love to hear, because that's ultimately what we're here for. That'd be great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a compliment. I'm just wowed. The implications of this are tremendous.
I heard your excitement for this, Mr. Weed, and now I get it and understand it, and it's easy to see. There's so much to like here. And if Dr. Bolton, if this was your only presentation tonight, I'd be amazed, but you did two others that were also phenomenal. And I think altogether, just how these presentations have been, how they complement each other. I think your work team on slide 3, just be engaging with so many key stakeholders in this work is emblematic of just the cross-committee communications we're having. The alignment is evident. So I want to thank you and everybody who presented tonight. It's just really great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All righty.
So that ends the superintendent's report. I want to thank individuals tonight for their presentations. I believe Director Moeller here, when he said that you could see throughout all 5 presentations tonight, the alignment that takes place and what those pieces really mean. So thank you all for your hard work tonight.
Can I have a motion to approve the consensual items?
So
Second.
Any discussion or comments on any of these? All right. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Action items. Now, the board will take up the following action items. Is there a motion to approve 7.01, the FY24 audit?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Thank you. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 7.01, the F25 budget adjustment. Is there a second? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I did ask Cynthia Rowman to talk a little bit about the need for the budget adjustment, and asked her to just share what she told me. I was curious about why this was necessary. I needed a little more background. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Suda. So the budget adjustment does include a net increase in revenues as well as a net increase in expenditures, resulting in a 1% increase in our fiscal year 2025 budget. Primarily, we are updating our revenues because of the DESI calculations for our foundation formula, as well as our transportation aid, which resulted in a positive increase in revenues. And then we updated some expenditure increases due to some service agency costs, some increased audit fees, as well as some purchase services. So I just want to remind the board that budgets are fluid, and we want to prepare and present budget adjustments to the board on a regular basis throughout the year as we update fiscal year 2025 to reflect what's truly happening, right? So that we really have a financial picture going throughout the year. Next month, we do anticipate bringing another budget adjustment, hopefully reducing additional expenditures. So hopefully that'll be forthcoming. As an improvement measure, in talking with Director Suda, I do think it's probably valuable to include more of a narrative in the executive summary. So things I'm saying right now would be in writing in the executive summary for the board to review and have a better understanding, better communication, better clarity on what the budget amendments are and why we're presenting them. In addition, we kind of talked about including a summary of revenues and expenditures, and then the impact of the budget adjustments on the fund balance for the fiscal year. So narrative, information, communication, and clarity, as well as a financial summary indicating the impact on the adjustments. So hopefully that'll be pleasing to the board going forward.
Thank you for your responsiveness.
Any other questions, comments on this?
I just want to emphasize that we're on a accrual budget, is my understanding, according to the auditors and so forth. And kind of what that means is money's coming and going at different times of the year. Is that correct? State, the federal government. We also get paid for things in the rear. And so we also have expenses that are coming out. And so it's constantly evolving.
Yeah, timing. Yes, timing has a lot to do with the accruals of the revenues and expenditures that we report. And so, I like to use the analogy of a checkbook. So if you get paid once a month, right? So if you get paid at the beginning of the month, what you have in your checkbook is what you have. But in an accrual basis, if you know in 5 days you're gonna get your next paycheck, and in 5 days your car payment's gonna go out, you know that you can go ahead and anticipate those revenues and expenditures going forward. So that's kind of the accrual method. Is there's things we recognize as revenues, even though they're not in our bank account, not in our ledger at the time, but we're recording it as though, because they're measurable and we know when they're going to come, we go ahead and include them in our reporting. So it is timing, and it is kind of a fluid reporting as well.
Yeah, and some of that information is based on previous years. In other words, like early childhood, we don't get paid until the next year for early childhood. So we know we've had so many kids last year. We know we're going to get X amount this year. And so we can go ahead and put that in our budget, which makes us look like right now we have more money, but we know that's going to get spent in certain ways.
Correct. Most of our federal revenues are a reimbursement basis in the current year, but you are correct. Early childhood is more of a prior year reimbursement in the following year. Yes, sir.
I just want people to know that as we're going forward, that our budget may look like we have money in one area that we really don't, because it's in the budget and it'll be spent in certain ways, but it gives you kind of a false impression that, oh, we have money there. No, we don't. That's.
And to your point, back when we did the presentation on August 13th, there was money that wasn't recorded yet because we couldn't measure our early childhood revenue. We couldn't measure our IDEA final expenditure report revenues. And so since we couldn't measure them, we hadn't reported them in the budget yet. And so that's why, some of our revenues looked lower than what we had budgeted originally, because those accruals hadn't been recorded yet.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments, questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 7.03, first reading policy, GBAA, staff, extra duty assignments. Motion to approve? Anyone?
So moved. Second.
Second? Discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 7.04, first reading, GCBA, professional staff compensation. Is there a motion to approve?
So, second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved. 7.05, tonight, strategic plan and comprehensive school improvement plan. CSIP, first quarter update. Motion to approve?
Second.
Second? So is I hear a second over there? Yeah. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Missouri School Improvement Plan Program Monitoring Reports. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All opposed? Motion carries. 7.07, ECSE. Partner District Fund Reimbursement Agreements. Someone have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I talked to Ms. Moore. I noticed that there was a lot of variation in districts, and just asked that those discussions be held with the districts to make sure that compensation is adequate. It's a pass-through charge, and we want to be sure that everybody's adequately compensated. So thank you for the time on that earlier.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 7.08, board resignation. This one is rather sad. I do not want to do this. I would rather have Katie sitting here than me sitting here. But Current board president representative of Subdistrict 3, Katie Patrick, submitted to the board on October 28th a letter of resignation, which the board has reviewed. As per policy, BBE, the board needs to approve this resignation. I would love to say that I'm not going to approve this resignation. In fact, I will call Katie later and tell, I already told her I didn't want to do this tonight. But is there a motion to approve 7.08 board resignation?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second to that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. On behalf of the board, I want to thank Katie. Katie for many years of tireless service. And she joined the board in 2019. She represented Subdistrict 3, which is Parkway. President Patroff has passionately advocated for students, families, and SSD and the SSD community. Her leadership, empathy, she really was empathetic, and firsthand insight into the needs of our students have left a lasting impact. She'll be truly missed, both for her guidance and her compassion, which she brought to her role. Katie specifically wanted me to convey the following quote. This is the quote she wanted done. While the district is navigating some challenges, my decision is solely based on putting my family needs at the forefront. She further stated, I am confident that the remaining board members, along with the superintendent, Dr. Macklin, will continue making meaningful progress toward righting the ship. That's her quote. Now, Katie will be formally recognized, honored as part of this board appreciation recognition in March. We would have done it sooner, but Katie didn't want it sooner. She wanted us to wait till we recognize everybody. And that's pretty much what Katie was. Katie never, yeah, you should, people hear her know she never wanted to stand out. She just gave. I will miss her. Policy BBE and regulation BBER provides guidance as to the process and the timeline for the SSD board education to appoint a board member. However, due to the fact that this was already announced, the Subdistrict 3 will have an election in March. For those of you who are familiar, what happens is the governing council, there is a series of applications that'll be made in December. The hearing will be in March. People run, they put in their applications, and the board of and the governing board at that time will interview and make a decision. Because that's in March, for which applications will be beginningly accepted December 10th. A candidate to fill this district would essentially be required to submit applications in parallel. Therefore, I'm asking, and please, if we have a discussion on this, let's have a discussion on this. I'm asking for a motion to review all applicable policies and regulations at the December 10th meeting to determine the most appropriate action regarding this vacancy. Is there a motion and a second for this? In other words, on December 10th, we're going to look at the process.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. So December 10th, we will review all applicable policies. We will, and all regulations. We will discuss at that time the steps that we as a board will take to fill that vacancy at that time. Now, election of a board president. Regulation BCB.R. Is Kevin still here? You just love this, don't you? Kevin is one of these rare people in life that when you start shooting off letters, he gets all excited because he is truly a policy wog. Okay. Here you go, Kevin. This will make your night. BCBR states the sitting vice president assumes the role of president. Is there a motion to approve 7.09, electing me as the board president until we reorganize? And I guess that's April.
Yeah. So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
You'll do great.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion to approve me as the current board president until April, when we have an election with the reestablishment of what the board will be at that time. Now,
Saying that.
pardon?
You keep saying that.
Yeah.
Mr. President.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah, thanks, great. Next, the board will elect a vice president. Is there a nomination for the members for this office?
I'd like to nominate Carmen Stanton.
I'd like to second that.
Any other nominations? Good. Is there a motion to approve Carmen as the board vice president?
So moved.
Is there a good? Motion having been made and seconded to approve Carmen as board vice president. Is there any discussion? I can't wait to hand you a gift. Yeah. You can only hit it on this block, not my head, okay? All right. Motion to approve Carmen as SSD board vice president carries.
I need to vote.
Board of Education Business. Oh, wait, do we need to vote on that? All in favor of having Carmen as the vice president?
Aye.
All opposed? Carmen, keep quiet. B. All righty.
Congratulations.
Board of Education Business, closed meeting of the Board of Education. Now I'm gonna need a roll call on this one. On November 12th, it says 7 p.m. We're not making that one tonight. As soon as this is over, 8 o'clock or afterwards. And I apologize to all you here for going over tonight. I now ask for a motion to hold a closed meeting of the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Director Mueller. Yes. Director Sartorius.
Yes.
Director Suda.
Yes.
Vice President State.
Yes.
President Cuneo.
Yes. All right, motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the last minutes? The minutes of the last meetings?
Second.
Discussion? This one we can have all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Executive meeting actions. The following items were approved during the executive meeting on October 22nd, 2024. Employment, resignations, retirement and salary adjustments, separation agreement, contract release, and one settlement authority approval. Now, the chair opens the floor to any board member who would like to make any type of comments, please.
I would like to say, I reached out to Katie immediately and just, since I was even interested in pursuing this role, she has been, a helpful resource to me. And, I mean, from the very beginning, I was like, can I just have coffee with you to know what you do? And I've just appreciated, her support in, my journey on this board. And just also would like to say, like, I am humbled by the opportunity to serve as board VP. It is an honor to serve family, staff, and students in this way. So thank you to my peers. I really appreciate it.
We will, I have one more comment on Katie. Usually when a board member resigns, everybody on the board says something nice about them. Sometimes you have to really think about something nice to say about it. And that's what they said when they thought I was resigning. But what had happened with Katie, it's not hard. And she did not want this yet. She did not want us to make that yet. And so in March, we will have more of a going away and a thank you for her because she's truly contributed. Any other comments?
I do want to say it really also echoes the sentiments of the service that boards continue to drive organizations after spending time at MSBA and really understanding the roles as some of you would say this unpaid job.
It's good her volunteer job.
This volunteer job, but really provides a driving force for organizations. And so we understand the time that you are away from your families here to ensure that organizations don't just survive, but they thrive. So we're thankful and look forward to the continued support.
Dan, I'd like to make a comment. I'd like to really thank the folks that came and talked tonight.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the ability for staff to be able to come and share their opinion. I think transparency is very, very important. I also see the effort being made by Dr. Bolton and other people in their committees of involving staff, getting their perspectives. And I think that transparency of working together is very, very important. So thank you to everybody who is here and those who are watching for your support in keeping our programs transparent and trying to make a difference for kids.
Anyone else? Anything?
Yeah, I did not get to work with Katie Potroff for very long, but I certainly enjoyed spending time with her on the board and thought she really contributed a lot and she'll be missed.
Again, we will all say things about her in March. Nice things, I should say. And I may say things about her for leaving now, but I may call her and tell her what I think about this. Calendar events is posted for your information. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Good night, everybody. Let's take 5 minutes, then we'll go back to our executive. Thank you.